Welcome to the final taping of Our Stories Are Healing. We are so excited to be here with you today, to be in space with you, to welcome you into the space that we co-hold together. Today, we will be discussing what it means to actually heal. What are some of the things that each of us have been through? How have we navigated those? What are the tools and the strategies and the tactics that we use in order to continue to implement healing and find new ways to open ourselves up to love? In this episode, we will be having a couple of conversations that will be sensitive topics that come up. Anything from domestic violence to abuse to recovery to substance use. What we want you to know is that as we invite you in, it is up to you to choose what is best for you in this moment, in the right now. Does it feel good to be able to sink into these conversations, laugh with us, cry with us, be present with whatever shows up? Or do you need to come back to this when you are in a different space, mentally, emotionally, or physically? Looking forward to you joining us in whatever way you're capable. Welcome to Our Stories Are Healing. And then today, I would love to bring in whoever would like to step in this space first. Name and then where you are.
I will go first. My name is Samia Marchman, and I am from Cleveland, Ohio. Boop, boop, Cleveland. House, no.
I'm like, Cleveland in the house. Maybe we should do like, what neighborhood do you rep? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else, y'all can go ahead.
My name is Vanessa Hawkins, and I am from the west side of Cleveland.
My name is Tracy MacArthur, and I'm from East Cleveland, living in Cleveland. Just want to rep East Cleveland. Got to.
Okay, got you.
Gotta rep it this morning. Shaw High.
Shaw in the house.
Good morning, Miss D. I want to say the east side of Cleveland, Glenville community.
Hi, my name is Willetta McGowan, and I'm also from the east side of Cleveland, Glenville.
Is it too old to raise the roof? I don't know. I'm gonna quit.
No,
Raise it.
Oh man. Okay. And then I am the host, co-hosting actually, because we all hold this space together. Bianca Edwards, the Sacred Apothecary, and I am actually not in Cleveland. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. So excited to see all of you and be here with you. So Ms. D, to that first question you asked, let's go ahead and drop in. What is healing to each of you?
First of all, I would like to just say that the process of healing is like going through the process of grief. You know, you deny, you get angry, you bargain, you get depressed, when hopefully you finally get to that moment of acceptance. And that's when the real process can begin. And that process looks different for everybody, but you have to come to that moment of acceptance. And then you begin to do things. And, you know, if you're in counseling or therapy, you know, they will start you with a lot of different things. Sometimes, you know, getting your body ready, just walking and talking about what has happened. And some people can talk about it immediately. Sometimes that takes time to where you get to that place to where you can talk about it. But the important thing is to talk about it with someone you trust, who will not judge you, who will not judge the situation, where you can be free to be the authentic you.
Healing to me, or where I'm at in the healing process, is first of all, I have to, or we have to, or whoever is in this process have to understand that it starts from the outside, from the inside out, not outside in. You have to heal from the inside. And when we were speaking the last time, and I realized when Bianca said the feeling that you have in your chest, where it's not connecting with your heart, I feel that, you know, when I was talking about my grandmother and how I didn't mourn her death because I was so numb to life and being a paramedic, where I couldn't even mourn her death. Like, it was so hard for me to cry and so hard for me to even realize that what was going on. Like, why can't you cry? You know, everybody else was in their moment. And I'm just like, well, something's wrong with me. And I realized that a long time ago, when even in relationships, you all, even in my relationships, I was so numb. Like it didn't even matter if someone was crying. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Not realizing that I have to heal. And I'm still in that process of it. Right now I can cry and I feel so human. I feel so alive to be able to shed a tear or two. And it could be over nothing, but I'm able to cry. It could be just because it's raining outside. I want to cry about it, you know, but that's healing to me, is taking that time to realize I need to heal. I need something, whatever's in here need to come out. And so I had a person come over last week, Samia, and actually give me that hug that we talked about, right? And she was like, I heard the doorbell knock on the door. I'm like, who is this? So I look out and it's her. And it was like another tear like coming to my eyes right now, because no one has ever done that. Did what they said they were going to do and meant what they said and meant the hug. And we hugged each other and it was great. But healing is a process, like it's called DABDA in the medical world. Denial, anger, what's the other bargaining and accepting. It's called DABDA. And that's what you go through. So I'm just happy to be here, because I'm just happy to be in this space and be able to realize that nothing was wrong with me, but I really had to work on that inner part, because seeing death all the time, you guys, it numbs the soul, right? It numbs you so bad to where you're just floating through the world. You're not living, because next day, I don't know what I'm gonna see. I come home, you know, and you have to live in a world where people are emotional. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Like people dying. I see this every day, and I just need to understand. But this is where I am right now. I am healing. And I'm thankful for it.
It's funny you talk about that, because you know the numbness is natural, but you haven't begun that healing process. Once you begin it, the numbness will subside. And we have been taught a lot of times not to cry. You know, I got this. You know what I'm saying? I'm over that. You know, and I've heard that time and time again, even with my own self. You know, oh, I'm together, I'm good. You know, and usually that's when you're not good, because you haven't dealt with those emotions, and those emotions have to come out, and you want to bring them out, you know, healthily, you know, not, you know, because if you stuff them, the way it's going to come out is not going to be good for anybody, yourself or anybody around you. So, you know, crying is so healthy, but it seems like we've been taught, you know, I got this.
And for me, healing is, like you say, is really recognizing that you even have to heal, right? Growing up, I was an introvert, so I kept everything in. And then, like I say, not knowing or thinking that what I had to say didn't matter, right? So I had to get to a point in my life, because I wanted to be this strong, you know, like you say, Willetta, um, with Black women, it's like, oh, we the backbones, you know what I'm saying? You got to be strong. And then growing up, I didn't see my mother or grandmother and them cry much like that. You know what I'm saying? So if they were in any kind of pain like that, they didn't allow us to see that. So I'm looking at them as these strong women. And oftentimes when I'm talking about them, that's what I say, they were strong, you know, even my grandma Mary, you know, I said we didn't see them cry. So we grow up with those images, or I grew up with those images in my mind, thinking that, you know, we wasn't supposed to cry. And if I did cry, I would cry to myself, right? Um, I had to even realize I was in pain. I was the one where, everybody came to me, Dee Dee, well, if I talk to Dee Dee, you know what I'm saying? So I was always helping other people, and I would put my feelings and myself like, on the back burner. So when I did start tapping into myself, oh my God, I had no idea that I was even experiencing the type of pain that I had, because I had tucked it away, I had buried it. I mean, I had put up so many walls in front, you know what I'm saying? So my thing is an ongoing healing. And like I said, I'm so glad that we were even introduced to this project, so that I can begin to tear down some of those walls, right? This has really been a journey, a journey, an eye-opening chapter for me. But the more that I share the different pains that I kept inside, the better I'm feeling, right? So I'm just glad that we had this platform to be able to even share. I'm glad that this platform was here because I needed this. I really needed this, I think, at this point in time in my life in order for me to move to the next chapter of my life. I really needed this. So healing is an ongoing process, and you must recognize or becoming aware, basically, of the pain, right? Then we have to decide how I want to heal, whether that it can come out through writing, it can come out in a session like this, it can come out in a artwork. So it's really me deciding on which way I want to start that particular process. And it's just like a onion, y'all. I got all these layers, but I'm so glad that I'll begin to even peel back the layers, but I'll stop there.
For me, the word healing really did not have a definition because I never accepted that I was in pain. I needed to heal because I went from Monday to Tuesday. I went from 9 to 10. I went from 10 to 11. Life continued to go on. So I continued to go on with life, never thinking, but Vanessa, you've been raped. You've been through some stuff and you need to heal. I just recently got to that point to understand that I had to stop. I had to analyze Vanessa. I had to honestly look at why Vanessa put herself in some situations, because a lot of people say, well, it wasn't your fault. Yeah, it was my fault. Because some of the places I put myself, some of the people I feel I put myself around, I didn't even want to be there with them. You ever put yourself someplace and as you sit there and listen to people, you go, that is so stupid. What are they talking about? Why am I here? Why am I drinking with them? I should be drinking by myself because they too stupid for me. You ever just been someplace with people and you just look like, just pass the joint because I don't even want to hear what you got to say because you just sounded crazy to me.
Yeah.
I had to deal with the fact that because of the things that people had told me who I was, I allowed their definition of Vanessa to put me in positions I didn't need to be in. So I had to learn who Vanessa was, who was the authentic Vanessa. When I first heard that, I said, she a hoe. She ain't nothing but old drunk. She a cokehead. And they kept saying, that's not who you are. Yes, it is. I claimed those definitions because that's what I had heard. So for me, I'm in that process of right now of becoming to love Vanessa as she is right now and to understand I am the beloved daughter of the great I am. God, I'm God's canvas. This is what he has made. And I am beautiful, whoever I am, whatever you say, I am beautiful. I have learned to listen to other people and to listen to their stories. A lot of people say you should accept people where they are. I say that's impossible, because unless you've been raped, your mind can't even begin to figure out how I'm going to operate sometimes. But you can accept me where I am. You can listen to where I am. You can do that. But I think to meet me where I am, that means in your head, you got to figure out how it feels to be gang raped, how it feels to be raped, how it feels to have your father. Why would I want to put you in that mindset? I'm trying to get out the mindset. So for me, healing means to literally, instead of moving from Monday to Tuesday, from one age to another age, from one apartment to another apartment, planting your feet, turning around and saying, we're going to fight this out, but I'm going to win, but we're going to fight this out right now. I'm going to deal with this because I need to move on. So let's start the fight. That's what it means to me.
That's that moment of acceptance.
Yeah.
That is that moment of acceptance. The process of healing is a journey. It's not a mindset. It is definitely a journey.
Yeah. Well, healing for me is something new. I didn't realize that I had so much to heal from being the oldest daughter of 6 children. Having older siblings, but being that oldest girl, you know, I was always told you have to learn this, you got to get this, you know, and these are the things that you have to do, because if I'm not around, this is what you got to know how to do. You have to know how to do these things. And then being told to listen, watch, and pay attention, and not knowing that I also had a voice within all of that. So I kind of shut that off and didn't have a voice. So it was kind of like I just took on the things that people expected me to do and expected me to be that person. And whatever people said that I was going to do, that's what I aimed to do, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And healing starts with me by recognizing, like Ms. D said, that there's actually an onion in the room that even has a coating on it. How do you even start to peel that coating off to even get to the layers? So for me, healing is, like everybody else said, recognizing that there is actually healing that needs to be done. And then just sitting in the room with that onion so that you can even figure out how to start to peel the outside to even get to that onion, to start even tearing away those layers, because that's a process within itself for me.
It is.
I heard a song, and his name is Live Jennings. It's like one of my favorite artists. And he has a song called Cry. And at the beginning, it says, crying is like taking your soul to the laundromat. You know, he also said it's like the feeling that you get when you see your grandmother smile. And he said, and the heavens open up and smile. So go ahead and cry. So that is like the favorite, one of my favorite songs, but that opening is like the favorite to me. And I really realize it. It's like taking your soul to the laundromat and crying, just cry. And let it go, because once you begin to heal, also you have to begin to let it go. You know, you can't say you healing and keep holding on to the same things you say you heal from. True. You can't say you healing and the same person that you were mad at, you still mad at. Because somewhere along there, it's up to you when the forgiveness begins. But before you forgive, before you forgive somebody, you got to heal from it. How can I say I forgive you and I haven't healed from it? And every time I see your face, I want to punch you in it. You know what I'm saying? If you've done those things to me, every time you come around me, there's some contempt for you. You know, I want to, but you can't do that. So for me, I realized that I have to truly forgive. You don't have to forget, but it can't be the first time you see somebody. Every time you see them, you don't like them. You don't like the space that you share. You don't even like that they breathe in air that you breathe. So you have to honestly sit back and say, I'm healing and I'm forgiving me first. Because healing also, like Vanessa said, I have to forgive me taking ownership of some of the things that you did recklessly and healing from it. I do reckless things. I'm not perfect. Nobody on here is perfect. But if you are, you're no longer living, because people, there's no more fault, no more pain you can do once you're not here no more. So when you start forgiving yourself, that's the thing. Once we start moving inside of ourselves and healing and forgiving ourselves, that's where it starts for me, because I have to forgive me for allowing myself to be in certain situations where I can get hurt.
Yes.
I agree with you, Tracy, because I think that's part of what I'm going to have to do is to first forgive myself. And I don't know the process of forgiving. All I know is, well, for me, what I do and what I feel that has worked so far, which you made me really think about that, because if you really move past it, then you won't keep bringing it up, right? So I use a journal. And in my journal, I would be afraid for people to go into my journal, because I would say people would think that I was a very mean and evil and angry person, because all I ever wrote about was moments when I was angry, when I was upset, when I wanted to talk, but I didn't know how to talk to somebody because I didn't think that my opinions or what I had to say mattered. So instead of me voicing those opinions, I would write them down, and I didn't think that I had anybody to go to that want to hear what I got to say anyway, because, all I'm to do is to watch, listen, and learn. I didn't know that I had that voice to be able to do so for so many years. So I guess in realizing that I have to, I guess, accept what I did in my past, those things that have happened to me in the past, what someone has treated me in the past, what someone has said to me in the past. I have to accept those things before I can even start the healing process for myself. So I'd like everyone else have said, healing starts in so many different directions, and you just first have to accept which way you're ready to go. Are you going to start peeling that onion? Are you going to work on the outer layers first? Are you going to cut that onion in half and work from the middle on out? Or are you just going to start journaling and meditating and going that route with it? There's so many different ways to heal. It's just acknowledging where you are and which way you want to handle it, because there's really no wrong way to do it.
That's right.
That's
There's no one size
it's
fit all.
it's no one way. But I like when you spoke about journaling and how everything you said at first was so angry. That's how I started out. Everything I wrote, I'm saying, you ever read something and go, girl, you need to chill. What's wrong with you? So what I had to do for Vanessa, I would talk it out. I had to learn how to de-escalate me by speaking on it. You would have thought it has to be somebody in that house with her. I went from room to room. I would talk about your mama. I don't care. I went from room to room, and I was so angry. But then for me, it got to the point where I would say, now, Vanessa, we done got that out. Now I need you to, let's balance this. In the scriptures say everything you do should be balanced. So I had done all the cussing. Now I had to take the person to say, now let's discuss this rationally. So once I would do that, when I would write, I'm writing all positive things now. I'm like, but wait a minute. but for me, I had to actually speak the anger out, because if I started to write, then it's on paper. So when I would reread, all I would read was my anger. All I would read was, and you know what this person said to me, and did that. So I'm rehashing everything all over again. So I never could let it go. But once you cuss somebody out, it's gone. It's gone.
That's exactly right. You
It's
took your
gone.
voice back. You
Yeah,
took your voice
right.
back. And
That's the
that's a lot of times you feel silence.
Yeah.
So you have to
yes,
take your voice back. And
yes,
journaling is an excellent way, but it's definitely a way of getting your voice back and begin to replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts.
So when I leave this house, you know, I'm gonna have to get some sage. So whoever,
I know.
because they gonna walk in and go, oh, whoever lived here was an angry person.
No, for me, it's safer for me to write it down.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
it's safer for me to write it down because I
She's
could
like,
not and would not want to go to any of these people that I'm angry, girl, ain't not telling where I end up at. So I definitely have to write it down. If I have to burn it up afterwards and
yes,
release
I've
it
heard.
out into the air for real to really let it go, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
That's what I have to do. Tracy, you made a great point. We said some people, you know, sometimes you say you let it go, right? But have you really let it go? Because like
yes,
you say, as soon as you get in the presence of that person, you do. It's like all of that stuff just bubble up again. And like you said, you would want to approach them and just go off. So you really have to, I don't know if it's like test yourself or whatever. Because, you know, I done been in that space and I had to still smile and just remember, like I said, I had to remember that I had to really forgive myself. I don't know if I really forgive that individual yet, but I had to make sure I had forgiven myself so I wouldn't then act on it while that person was in my while people was in my presence, right? And then there's triggers. I think there's
yes,
also things that'll trigger you too, that can also bring those feelings and emotions back. Um, just like there's triggers that can bring good thoughts, there's those triggers that can bring those bad things back to surface. But I think it's you're growing when you have learned how to I guess deal with them when they do surface, right? So I know I've come a very long way.
yes,
Um, and I'm just so thankful, right? I'm just so thankful because I'm thankful just for being in this space, like I say, where I am right here today, even being able to have these conversations, because there were so many things that I dealt with, even when my ex-husband was in prison, you know what I'm saying, that I didn't even get a chance to deal with, right? I immediately had to transition then to becoming a single mother and taking care of my children. You know, even being at this point and being in this space to even sit and hear Samia speak, my daughter. You know what I'm saying? I could have been the reason too for some of these same things. She sounds like me. If you hear it, we were
Exactly.
introverts. We, you know, held things in. You know what I'm saying? So she had to pick up some of those things from me as a mother, right? And just like I said, where did I get it? This thing can be generational, and it is time for us to stop some of these. They
yes,
call them generational curses or whatever.
yes,
It's time to put a stop to some of those things, right?
yes,
And I'm glad that we are in this space where we can hear each other because even though she's my daughter, some of these things that I'm sharing, she probably has never heard. I'm in this space and she's sharing things, and it's some things that I've never heard. Is that heartbreaking to me? Absolutely. But you know what? I thank God, the great I am, like you said, Vanessa, that we're in this space to go through this together,
yes, ma'am.
right? So this
Yes,
is I feel like I'm floating For real.
Okay.
I'm like,
Wait. Oh,
I'm glad to be right here where we are today. Thank you.
oh,
Yeah.
queen sitting down.
The way that,
Absolutely.
the way that I start my little process is that I talk to myself, like Vanessa said, I really don't cuss, I do cuss. That's not a lie.
I was like, well, Tracy, hold on
I do.
now.
I do. I really do. But also, I talk to anybody that'll listen to me. And that's how I heal, because even through breakups where my heart has been broken and I knew that, because nobody can say when you're going to be over it when you break up, or when the relationship break up, and where you're going to be. I talk to anybody. If you're going to listen, I'm going to talk about it. And I talk about it. I call you up and talk about it. I see you. We go out to eat and I talk about it. We walking down the street and we talking about it. Because wherever we are, we're going to talk about it. And if you my friend, you know what I'm going through. So just take the moment to listen, because I'm that person.
Just listen.
I'm going to listen to you. Sometimes, like my brother would call and he need to heal. And then I tell you, sometimes he drops it off on me and he feel good. Now I'm carrying his little weight for him, trying to get it off me. So during my healing, I talk to anybody that's going to listen. And they say it's crazy talk. No, I talk to myself, because I need to realize, where did I go wrong in this part? I have to take ownership to my own pain sometimes, to my own hurt, because we do open up ourselves and cause some of it on our own. We can't blame everybody for us feeling hurt or being hurt. So when you start to realize that, hey, what part did I play?
There you go. What part did you play?
What do I realize that I played a part? Because some people can hurt you without even you knowing it, or at the time they hurting you. But then did you play a part in allowing them to do so? Because my grandmother told me people can only hurt you if you allow them to. We allow people in our lives that we say we trust, and what they do, some of them, not all, because hurt you.
And
But
sometimes we seek it.
You can't walk around with your feelings. My grandmother would say, and her saying, put the feelings under your feet and walk on them. And that's what I would do. So, and even as a paramedic, that's what I had to do. I couldn't sit on people's couch and cry with them because their family member died. Like, I'm crying, I don't even know you, but if I did that, I would be a horrible paramedic. So I had to harden up and stiffen up and be like, I'm coming in here, I'll be thinking about food. So when I got away from it, I began to, like that onion you guys talk about, I began to feel a little bit, right? I began to have a little tear here and there, just a little bit, because it was so hard. The first time I told you guys that I didn't mourn my grandmother's death was that last time we spoke. And it felt better when I did, because I know she was a great woman to me, one of the greatest women that I ever met. That I had in my life, the wisest woman that I could ever talk to. Next, my mom is that woman now, but my grandmother held that matriarch. She was the one you went to. But right now in healing, I'll allow people when in their process, just like I said, I talk to anybody that listens, I'll allow people to talk to me and I listen.
It's beautiful.
And I open up my arms and say, hey, you want a hug? Come on, give me a hug.
That's it.
It's interesting, because I thought I was the only person that did walk around the house talking to themselves first.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Not
It's
at
a living
all.
practice.
House right now, they would be like, "Who is you talking to?"
Right.
Has it actually happened? Because I live with my boyfriend, and I was doing it for so many years, and I lived by myself for so many years, so that when we moved in together, I never.
He was cussing in the bathroom. He's like, "Boo, you all right? What's
Who is she talking to?
It took me a really long time to realize, like, another person in the house that you can actually go sit on the couch and talk to. I really got so used to talking to myself. When you really have to, like, 'cause I did both, Vanessa. I journaled and I would talk, I was talking while I was saying, go hear what I got to say, I don't care. Stop. That's how I would, sitting up here crying because it's so true. You know, I just really thought I was the only person. He would be.
No.
It took me about 2 years of us living together for me to realize, like, if you guys are really going to be together, you know, you can actually start your healing process. Well, I didn't know what it was back then, but you can actually start, you know, expressing some of your feelings and letting him help you work it out. He was like, you know, you don't have to talk. You ain't got to yourself. That's right. Because I'll be in the kitchen, you know, just cooking and talking to myself, and I'm gonna put this over here.
Some of those times was the best moments though.
And
Yes.
Yes.
Those are the best moments.
in my space, I was
Yeah.
in my head,
Yeah.
and I guess that's what I have to tell people is like I get in my head and I forget. Like I know what I'm doing,
Yes.
but I'm in my head and I'm dealing with whatever it is that I want to deal with at that moment. And I'll be just talking and I don't even realize that I'm even talking out loud. And then before I know it, dinner's ready though.
I have a whole episode. Like it's a whole episode.
Thank you.
going.
Yes,
Right?
it
It's
is.
a whole episode.
It is.
I could have filmed an episode because it's
Okay.
serious.
Yes. Wait. Crying, laughing. But Samia, thanks for the heads up. So when I get married, I'm gonna get myself preconditioned mentally to know you got somebody coming in your house now. I need you to stop talking to yourself.
So my husband and I have been married 10 years. Vanessa, it still happens. I'll be in the
Oh, okay.
it's
Never
like
mind.
this to me. I'll be in the kitchen. He'll peek his head in the kitchen and walk out. He'll shake his head. Like I know that I'm in it when he shakes his head and he just walks away. I'm like, oh.
It's good that we're able to have those conversations with ourselves.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
healthy that we do that. I do it all. And seem like since I've been on this journey, I've been having them more and more. Because I mean, when he'll be like, you know what, you're gonna have Alzheimer's and stuff when you get dementia or something when you get older. Because I'm having these conversations with myself. But guess what? Those used to be conversations that I used to have on the inside.
Right.
That was tearing my body up on the inside.
That's
So
right.
it's healthier for me now to speak them out loud, like you say, whether someone else is in the room to hear it or not. The thing is, it's coming up,
Out
out.
and out.
It's
Yes.
coming
That's
up
right.
and out, right?
Yes.
So that I'm just glad that I'm even able to start doing that job because I harnessed everything. I kept it all in. So I'm just even glad that I'm able to speak it and hear it out loud, I guess, too, for myself, because you feel embarrassed. I feel embarrassed myself about certain things and everything. You know, it's just certain things you feel embarrassed about. You don't want other people to know that you even probably dealing with stuff. The whole time, though, that when I became a single mom and my husband at that time, my ex-husband now, was in prison, nobody even really asked me how I'm doing. If they ask, it's like, oh, it was a general, hey girl, how you doing? You know, and they coming in getting their hair done, right? But there was no conversation about anything. How are you mentally? How you dealing with this girl? You know what I'm saying? How are you doing this? You know, you taking care of these kids by yourself? I don't really see nobody help you. You know, do you need something? Do you need to go to the store? Do you need to go? How you getting to the laundromat? You got 4 kids. How you getting their clothes clean? You know, nobody ever asked those things. And I guess they were just watching. It's like, oh, since the light and gas and the kids had clothes, like, oh, she doing fine. But mentally, I wasn't, right? Mentally, I wasn't. So to be able to even talk about it now and get it out, whether someone's in the room or not, guess what? I'm letting it go. I'm letting it come up. I'm
And
letting it
out and
out,
it
and
out.
I'm letting it go.
Go.
Right? Because
Yes.
I have so much. I'm
Absolutely.
telling y'all, for 6 years, y'all, I didn't laugh. I punished myself.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think I was supposed to have been happy. Wasn't supposed to laugh because he was like I didn't do that. What he did, I didn't do it, but I punished myself. Oh my God! 6 years I went without feeling loved, happy, wanted. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God! But I'm glad that I'm even able to talk about it lightly. You know, because that part of my life, it was very painful, having to find a place to live, um, being there with my sister, helping her with her children. You know what I'm saying? Seeing her go through her challenges and barriers, trying to be that big sister, you know what I'm saying, to really help her. But when it boiled down, it was always her choice, even though no matter what I would have wanted for her, right? It still was her choice. So I learned some lessons from her, right? I learned so many lessons from people in my life that caused me pain. Whoa, that sounds like a title to a book.
Okay. Write it, Miss D.
Write it,
I
get it.
learned
Write it.
so many lessons from the people in
Fulfill
my
the
life that caused me
cause
pain,
me that.
right? That
Come on.
allowed me to become the woman I am today. Yeah, I'm so thankful because I've also lived with that cloud of the dark cloud of whether or not I was gonna live past the age of 42 because my mom died at the age of 42, right?
Yours too,
So
mine.
wow, you know what I'm
Same
saying?
age.
So when I got past that 42 and turned 43, it felt like I was able to breathe.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God, I was able
Yes.
to breathe, right? So I have a lot to be thankful for. I have a lot to be living for. So I cannot and I will not allow those darknesses that happened to me, and those feelings to hold me back any longer.
Praise the Lord.
No, absolutely not.
Praise the
I'm
Listen,
Lord.
letting it go.
I never knew we had that connection. My mother died at 42 as well.
Wow,
And I
Yoletta.
was 6. I was 6 years
Oh,
old when that happened. That was I will say, my most traumatic event that ever happened in my life. And the one thing I will say, my dad, he allowed me to just talk about it. And being able to talk about it, whether it's to yourself or to others, is so important. You know, now psychologists realize that talking to yourself is not a bad thing. It is a healing thing. It's all in how you do it. And oftentimes when you're talking to yourself, you can feel that paradigm shift happen.
Mm-hmm.
That can be so transformative. You know, I remember when I was going through my first divorce, and it was so traumatic. And I would get up at 2:30 in the morning, and I would actually fight. I mean, fight the devil. I would get up and I would just punch him. You cannot have me. I shall live and not die. And it was during that time, I did it so much that I actually felt, because I told God, I said, I know I'm not handling this the Christian way. I was angry. And I tell people, I never thought about suicide. Homicide is a different story. And I mean, that's just truth. But it was God that helped me see that it was not, none of that was worth it. You are beautiful. I made you,
Yes.
and you are my princess. And it was during those times of just talking to myself that I began to truly embrace who I was and the beauty that was inside of me, and that what it went on was not my fault. But I did have to take ownership of the part that I played, because we all play a part, but it is not our fault. And those was two things that I wrestled with. Well, how can I take ownership if it's not my fault? You're just taking ownership of the part that you played,
You played.
but not blaming yourself for what happened. When you take that ownership on, and you know the part that you played, you won't carry that to a different relationship or a different situation. That process is healing. It is healing. And recognizing all those triggers, because you will have triggers. Things will trigger you. Something you can have someone said or do, you know, I'll never forget one particular situation where my next door, it was an empty house, and people would come there and try to invade the house. And sometimes I would say something, that house belongs to such and such. Well, in doing that, one day, this man pulled out a gun. And I didn't see the gun. I'm saying, that's not your house, until I heard the
Click.
when I heard that, I ran and I called the police. Well, a whole year later, there was a kid at Dollar Tree selling his CDs. And I said, oh no. He said, no, I have some positive CDs. And he went to pull his phone so I could listen. Well, when he went to do that, I jumped, because I just thought that he was pulling a gun. And he said, ma'am, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I had to share with him what had happened. And then I ended up getting his CD, but I never realized that trauma from that whole year before had affected me in that way.
Was still with you.
It was still there.
Still there.
And before we
Yeah.
wrap it up, I just want to share just 7 steps.
Well, hold on, Miss D. We ain't there yet. We still got questions.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, I'm gonna say this because I got 2 great things I'm gonna close out with. So I'm gonna say these. But yeah, I'm just glad. I'm just really, really. I'm good, y'all.
Well, and something that you all brought up, it's actually it's sitting in me. So, Vanessa, when you first shared, like, I had to hold my rape and be accountable for it, right? So as a person who has worked with survivors, I instantly had like a physical reaction. I don't know if y'all saw me over here touching my back, taking my arms out, because there's a beauty in when you get to the point where you can, as you all have said, own your part in it, right? Own whether it's because usually when we are in those spaces, we show up because we need to meet ourselves where we are, and we need somebody else to see the pain. We need to have an explanation for it. We need to have something current. And so sometimes we make choices that put us in spaces that trigger that feeling of victim, or that feeling of whatever it is, so that we can match whatever voices are in our head that are telling us that we're unworthy or not enough. And so as you all were sharing, I was just sitting in this space of deep appreciation, because there's so much beauty in watching how you all have woven together your stories. Like, they're all interconnected, whether it's the age of your mom, whether it's mother and daughter, whether it's friend, whatever it is, you are weaving together these stories. And one of the things that we had talked about when we first, and you guys have dived into this in a different way, but one of the things that we talked about was like, how do you make the space to choose yourself? Because it is a choice, right? We can choose to continue to be victim. We can choose to continue to sell ourselves in whatever way, shape, or form we do that. We can continue to make all those choices, but there's a moment where you choose yourself, because there really is, to you, no other choice to make. So what has that looked like for each of you? And what does that mean for where you are now?
Yeah. I can start. For me, the reason why I chose myself was because when trying to commit suicide multiple times and hearing my child cry every time in the moment is what stopped me every time. And I would get so angry with him. I would get so mad because I'm like, why would you wake up? And being in postpartum and being depressed and trying to tell people what was going on, and no one was really listening to what my issues and problems was. I was like, well, I don't need to be here anymore. That this is not something I want to do. He has a good father. I've already watched him. He's going to be great. I could just be an angel to watch over the both of them, make sure that he, I'll be good. And one particular night, as I looked into his eyes. And he cried, but when I picked him up, he was smiling. He was not crying. And the joy that he had reflected, I felt like on my soul. And I was looking at him and I'm like, and if I ever want to be the mommy or half the mother that my mother was to me, I have to put myself first. I have to do this for my son. And in order to do this for my son, I gotta start with myself, because if I don't start with myself, then how the hell am I going to help him when he has his issues and problems? So that's how I chose myself. I chose myself over suicide. I chose myself over my child, to be able to raise my child.
I'm glad that you said that. I chose myself for seeing the value that was within me, wanting to leave the legacy, a legacy of love for my grandchild. I chose myself because of who I am in God. And it was like really, truly like hearing him whisper in my ear, you are important. You are here to serve a purpose.
Mhm.
And I wanted to serve that purpose that he has set for me to serve, you know, um, helping others through their pain gives me purpose. And it's like, I used to say, why me? And I would hear God's voice say, why not you? You know, I chose you. And when I heard that voice, it's what really made me just really go in and embrace whatever I was going through. And it was like now I can meet people where they are, wherever they are, whatever situation they're in. If they've been through a divorce, if they are dealing with a teen that's out of hand, if they're dealing with grief or trauma, from childhood, child molestation, rape, I can deal with that from them because I can relate. I've been here. And I always ask God, what part of my story can help this person? Because our stories are healing and they do help others. And we help each other through our stories. And it's so important that we share those times and what we went through and how we came out of it as
You want to go next, Tracy?
Go ahead, Vanessa. I can go after you.
For me, my healing came by way of Jeremiah 29:11. I was displaced by fire and I had to go to a homeless shelter. And all the words I just kept saying was his words. I know the plans I have for you, and my plans are not to hurt you. So as I stepped into that shelter, it was like, okay, Dad, I can't see where you're going, but you can. So I'm going to place my hand in your hand. When you walk, I'm going to walk. You stop, I'm going to stop. But for right now, I'm going to walk with you. And in doing that walk, I had to become present. And that's where I am right now. I am present today. And that's the only thing I worry about is me allowing the fresh air to blow across my face. I feel the humidity. I can actually feel it. I can even hear a bird cry now, like, you not hot? I'm present. And for me, that is the most important thing that I can do. And I'm in that space now of saying to other people, I want you to become present with me. I don't know what's going on, but as we're in a conversation, I want it to be just us. I want it to be just us. I want you to hear the words I'm saying, and I'm going to hear the words you're saying and respond to what you're saying, not the thought that I have in my head as you speak, but the words that you say to me. I want to be available for you. But before I can do that for you, I have to be available for Vanessa. So for me, I need to be present. I don't need drugs. I don't need alcohol. I don't need anything stopping me from actually being here today and enjoying this day and knowing that I am blessed to be here. And since I am by myself all the time, when I'm around people, I'm like, yes, yes, Lord, thank you. He has blessed me today. I mean, so for me, it's about being present.
Yeah.
And for me, it's when the great I am gave me walk by faith and not by
Not by
sight.
sight.
It was when I accepted the destiny that was already set before me. As I began, the more I began to accept all of these great things, whether it was life, whether it was realizing that I have healing that has to take place, whether it was accepting that I had ACEs, right? Now that I know what that is, adverse childhood experiences, right? Once I began to accept those things, I accepted the destiny that was already created and set before me. It's like that, what is it? Is that quote where it's like the footprints in the sand? It's like I see those steps before me. So it's just me accepting those steps, trusting in where they're going to lead me, right? And walking it, taking those steps, walking directly over in those same footprints that was already created for me. That's when I realized.
I choose me every day. I have to choose me every day. If there's no other way, then I put Allah first, then me, and then everything else. So I choose me first. Every day that I get up, that Allah has blessed me to get up in the morning, I choose me. Because I have to choose me. There's no other person I'm going to choose before me. Right? So it's a process, and I've learned to choose me. Before I chose others. You know, I put my relationship before me. I put people before me, but now I choose me. And like I say, some days like yesterday, it was a choice for me not to do nothing. I chose me. You know, and it feels good to choose me because I'm the only one that I can trust outside of people that I love, but I trust me. And then it was a time that I didn't trust me to make great decisions because they were, at one point, they were all messed up. So right now, I get up and I thank Allah and I choose me because that's all I have to offer to the world.
Yes.
Those are all beautiful. We are going to shift a little bit, and as we close and as we wrap up, all of you have been through some deep healing journeys and are choosing to step into new layers of that onion of your healing journey. And so I'm curious for the right now and for what you've been through. What are some of the things that you've used? What are some of the resources that you'd like to share with people? Words of wisdom, whatever it is that comes up for you, please give those. And Miss D, you were already there, so I'm gonna pass it to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna pass it to you to open
it. For me, the 7 steps of healing. And before I say those, share those, what I try to do every day is really ground myself. That's something that I learned from Iyanla Vanzet. You definitely want to ground yourself every day. So whether that's prayer, affirmation, meditation, I want to ground myself every day. And then when this process began, um, around this whole initiative, I came across these 7 steps to healing. Number 1, become aware of your pain and trauma. Number 2, I had to decide to heal. Number 3, forgive, not because others are right, but because I deserve peace. You deserve peace. Number 4, write about, I began to write about my pain and burn the letters because I got more than one letter that I had to write. So it's writing that pain, getting that pain out, writing it down, burn it, and let it go. The 5th is my affirmations. I am healing now. It's something that I say not just once, but several times during the day to myself, sometimes out loud when I'm looking in the mirror. But I am saying, I am healing now. Number 6, change your self talk and begin to choose positivity and love. So it's changing it up and speaking more positive affirmations and thoughts into my life. Number 7 also is be patient. I had to really learn this to be patient with myself and the whole process. So you have to be patient with yourself and the whole entire process because it's a long process. And these steps came from the Soul and Book Club. Thank you.
One thing that I do is that I always know that I don't know if you will always ever totally heal. And I know it's an ongoing process for everything. And I understand it's how you cope with it. And for me, I've learned how to coping skills, how to cope with it, how to put it in its place and keep moving. That's how I deal with it. I learn where it's supposed to be, and I keep moving. Like once something is done, I try not to go back to it. I try not to relive it constantly. I just try to move on and think of something else to do, right? I think of something else, someplace else I could be, because none of us is perfect. We're not gonna. I feel healing is always gonna be a part of our lives as long as you live. You're always going to be healing for something. It's just the next journey that you go through. So once you, if you continue to be in that cycle, you haven't learned your lesson yet. So healing for me is about the lessons that you learn. So I have always try to figure out that lesson for me to move on with the next part of my life. So I'm going to be healing from something else. We're never going to be totally healed. So that's what I do. The understanding that this is a part that I need to experience. This is the chapter that I need to go through. And where am I? Am I at the beginning or am I at the end? Because once I figure that out, then I'm on to the next journey, because there's going to be something else I have to heal from. So life for me is a constant healing, because as long as you're here, there's going to be some pain.
For Samir, you want to go?
Oh no, go ahead. I'm still
Okay.
including everybody. That's all.
For me, on my journey, I've had organizations or people who have been instrumental, or I call them mile markers, like me working at Journey Center for Safety and Healing, was formerly Domestic Violence and Child Advocacy Center. Being around people who understood domestic violence, who understood my language, who understood there was going to be a residual, there was an act, and I didn't have to explain it. To be around people that you don't constantly have to explain why you're doing something, that takes the load off. Once I became a member of Bethlehem Temple Praise Church, it helped me understand where I wanted to be in a relationship with my Heavenly Father. It helped me understand who Vanessa was and where she had to go instead of believing where she was the end of the journey. And when I became a CHW through Dina, meeting Tracy and Miss D and Siobhan and Samia, for them to allow me, even in class, to have a voice, I don't think they understood. Up until then, no one had ever listened to me. No one had ever said, well, Vanessa, what you think? So when Tracy would say that, sometime I would look at her and go, she set me up. And why did she call my name Vanessa? That, it being with these three things have given me such great mile markers to understand. I was always okay. It was the people I had allowed to surround Vanessa and the narrative that they had given Vanessa on Vanessa's life. That was the problem. So for me, just being a CHW and being around those four strong women, I can't even, there isn't an adverb or an adjective that I could place on them and how much they came and have helped this journey to say, oh, girl, you traveling now. I started off on my feet. Girl, I'm in a Hummer right now because of them. I can't even explain when I travel now. I walk different. I hold my head different. I speak different. And it's all because of them. Like being on the newsletter and Siobhan will say, so Vanessa, what ideas do you have? I have to go, did she just ask me? Can she see me? Of course she could see me. That has helped my journey for Vanessa to say, you are present and I just need you to stay on where you stand. And these are your mile markers. These are people that will, like an usher. That's what they are. They're like ushers. Like instead of just saying, go sit over there, Tracy and them are literally saying, now I'm going to hand you off to this person and I'm going to hand you off to this person. And that's a beautiful feeling to have people actually help guide you to another person as opposed to saying, gone over there. Yeah, that's right. So for me, that's where I'm at in my healing.
I knew you had something to say. That's why I chose you. I knew you had something to offer. That's why I chose you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We saw it. We saw it.
And I thank you for
that is
seeing.
so beautiful. That is so beautiful.
It's for myself. For me, I have not. I'm not where you all are with this healing process. I actually think that it was because of the conversation before this that I even realized that I needed to heal. So when I look back into what I do on a daily basis that kind of helps me get through the day, is the first thing that I have started to change was to watch what I'm putting into my body. So the first thing in the morning, I make sure I get my vitamins in, I do my water, I do my body complete in the morning, because I'm not a breakfast person. And I wake up my son with a more positive vibe than just get out that bed. Come on, you got to get up and get in the bathroom and brush your teeth. So instead, I kind of changed that. I go over and I rub his head, and I talk to him. It's time to wake up, So those are the things that I've chose to change within myself so that I won't be carrying such a negative vibe and pass it on to him. So I think that might be the first part of my healing, is actually looking at what I want to change for myself. And now that I'm in this space with you all, I realize that I have a bigger onion in the room, but I actually need to actually acknowledge that it's there and to actually figure out how I want to unwrap the onion and start peeling back the layers to address them.
You will.
Can I say this last little thing? And I just shared it with Madison and
Well, Willetta hasn't gone yet. Can we have Willetta go and then you?
Oh, Willetta.
That's a
I'm
beautiful
sorry. I
wrap.
thought she went first. Okay, I'm sorry, Willetta.
That's Okay, sweetie.
Okay.
I was just going to jump off and say that it is a process. It is a lifelong process. And for me, the beginning of that healing was building my relationship with Christ and realizing how valuable I am. And then in that process, he just kept taking me from scripture to scripture. Like one Ephesians 6:10, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, you know, that the powers, that there are powers out there that are really invading us. And through that, I learned, okay, it ain't personal. It ain't personal. Once I learned that it wasn't personal, he taught me how to cast out my imagination, you know, through 1 Corinthians, I think 10:5, you cast out your, and I replaced those bad thoughts with new thoughts. And I renewed my mind. And it was like he took me from scripture to scripture. And then as I did that healing process, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. Then other stuff happened. And I went through the grief recovery method. And that's where I learned that truly it's a process. This is a lifelong process. We're going to be in this process our whole life, getting better and better and better by realizing there are things in our past that have harmed us, that have hurt us. There are losses in us that that have happened, and it doesn't mean necessarily a death. It can mean the loss of a relationship, a job, a friendship. It can be anything, and we have to deal with those emotions and getting those emotions out, and realizing how valuable you are in this world and the purpose that you serve. And it's through recognizing my purpose that I'm here for, for not only myself, but others, and everything that I do affects someone else. And I mean, just getting to know people, you know, knowing you guys, you know, is a part of my living. And I can choose life or I can choose death. And he said, choose life so that you and your descendants may live. And you and your descendants don't mean necessarily your birth children, but all those souls that are connected directly to you. And I hold that and I honor that and I value that. So I have to value me first. And that is a lifelong process. So, and with that, I close. Oh, and some of the books that I have used is this one called Two Chairs. And also being able to move on from your baggage. But definitely, I'm gonna tell you, the Word of God was my first, my very first, and still is my most important thing that I value that helps me to keep valuing myself above all things. And I pass.
So the last thing that I'll close with, is okay, Bianca, to close with this? Okay, it's healing. Every day I choose healing for my heart, mind, body, and spirit. I work through the darkness in my life, and I am able to find the stars. I heal in my own time, and I am gentle with myself every day. I forgive myself, and I forgive those who may have hurt me in the past. My heart may be broken, but I choose to fill the cracks with love and gentleness. I am healing beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay.
clap, snap, whatever comes up.
Whatever. Okay. Wait, both of them.
Right.
Absolutely. I'll send that out to
That was
everybody in case
beautiful.
y'all want it. I'm hanging
Thank
this
you.
up. You're welcome.
It is, as we wrap this session, I want to honor what each of you has shared by just saying thank you. I think I say that at the end of every episode, that it is so much of a blessing because as we all, like you just said so beautifully, Willetta, we're all tied together. So when you heal, I get healed. When I heal, it has ripple effects and repercussions on everyone else. One thing that came up for me was, Samia, when you were talking about your new ritual with your son and how you invite yourself into loving yourself and him in a different way and choosing yourself a different way. It just hit me as a mom. Like I'm sitting here and I was like, one of my community mamas, Mommy Karen, said to me at one point in time last year, she was like, we never mean to harm our kids when we have them. Like we don't. And sometimes we get so focused on survival that we forget to see them because we can't see ourselves.
Most definitely.
And so I was just like sitting in that as you shared it. And that with healing, one thing that you all have said that is just resonating with me is like, it's only exhausting when you fight it, right? But when you choose to go into it, when it's a step you take, when you know that there's layers, it's not exhausting anymore. Like you may be worn out, but it's just for a minute, right? Just for a minute, it's maybe for a couple of days. But you're healing when you actually start fighting for yourself, when you're willing to scream at yourself and have those conversations in the kitchen or the bathroom or the living room, when you got to save your house after you done cussed whoever out, when your body starts to fight back, that is when you are starting to love yourself again.
Yes.
And so I am just sitting in joy from all of that loving of self that you all just shared. And so with this being the final for now taping of this series, I just want to tell everyone who is out there, who has listened, who has been on this journey with us, that we thank you. We thank you for listening with open hearts and open ears. We thank you for engaging us in whatever way you have, whether it was through emails, posting something, liking the video where it was. And we also want to invite you into a journey where you find people who can love you exactly where you are and hold you, who know that you're worthy just because you take a breath, not because you produce something for them. And so we just want to thank you for every bit of your story that you are showing up with every day, for wherever you are on a healing journey, whether you haven't even acknowledged that there's stuff to heal or you're curious about what it would mean and who you need around you. So thank you for listening to Our Stories, Our Healing, and have a beautiful and blessed day.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.